Welcome back to the channel Valuable Coins HD. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a coin that many people overlook, yet it has an incredible story tied to it, the 1965 Washington quarter dollar. At first glance, it may just look like another old quarter from your change jar, but what if I told you this coin is part of a massive turning point in US coinage history? What if I also told you that some rare examples of this very coin could be worth tens of thousands of dollars today? Yes, you heard that right, so stick around until the very end, because the story of the 1965 Washington quarter is one you won't want to miss. To understand why the 1965 Washington quarter is so important, we need to look at what was happening in America during the mid-1960s. Before 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver and 10% copper, a tradition that dated back to the earliest days of U.S. coinage. But as silver prices rose dramatically during the early 1960s, people began hoarding silver coins, pulling them out of circulation. This led to a nationwide coin shortage, creating a real problem for the economy. The U.S. Mint had to take action, and in 1965, a major change occurred. For the first time since the nation's founding, the quarter was no longer struck in silver for circulation. Instead, it was made using a copper-nickel clad composition, outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This new sandwich coinage solved the silver shortage problem, but it also marked the end of an era. The 1965 Washington quarter was the very first clad quarter in U.S. history. Now let's talk about the design. The obverse, or front, of the coin features the familiar bust of George Washington, first introduced in 1932 to celebrate his 200th birthday. Designed by John Flanagan, the portrait of Washington is bold and timeless. You'll see the word liberty across the top, the motto "In God We Trust" to the left, and the date 1965 centered at the bottom. The reverse displays the striking image of a heraldic eagle, wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows, with olive branches beneath. The words United States of America curve above, E pluribus unum is tucked in below, and quarter dollar is boldly inscribed at the bottom. It's a design that conveys both power and peace, reflecting America's national spirit. But what makes the 1965 Washington quarter so intriguing for collectors isn't just its design, it's the timing and the unusual situation surrounding its release. Because it was the first year of clad coinage, there was confusion at the mints and among the public. Some coins struck in 1964 actually continued to be produced into 1965, and some 1965 dated coins may have been struck on leftover silver planchets. This means that for collectors, one of the most exciting possibilities is finding a 1965 quarter struck on a silver planchet. These coins are extremely rare and highly valuable because they technically should not exist. How can you tell if you have one? The first test is the weight. A standard clad 1965 quarter weighs 5.67 grams, while a silver quarter weighs about 6.25 grams. The edge of the coin also gives clues. Clad quarters show a copper-colored stripe on the edge, while silver quarters have a solid silver edge. Another important detail about 1965 quarters is that none of them carry a mint mark. To further discourage coin hoarding, the mint suspended mint marks between 1965 and 1967. This means whether your 1965 quarter came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, it will not show a mint mark. That makes identifying varieties and errors even more exciting, since you can't rely on mint marks for attribution. Speaking of errors, the 1965 Washington quarter has its fair share. Collectors prize examples with dramatic off-center strikes, double strikes, broad strikes, or coins struck on wrong planchets, such as dimes or even foreign coins. These errors transform a common coin into a numismatic rarity, often selling for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the severity and appeal. Now let's talk about condition. Most 1965 quarters you'll encounter in circulation are heavily worn, since these coins were used in everyday commerce for decades. High-grade mint state examples, those graded MS-65 or higher, are much harder to come by, especially without contact marks or blemishes. Coins with strong luster, sharp details, and no distractions can bring strong premiums. Even more desirable are the special mint set coins. Since the mint did not produce proof coins between 1965 and 1967, they instead released special mint sets, or SMS coins, which were struck with extra care. These coins have a satin-like finish and can be found with cameo or deep cameo contrasts. A 1965 Washington quarter from a special mint set in superb condition can be a real treasure in the eyes of collectors, but here's the exciting part: while most 1965 Washington quarters are worth only a modest premium above face value, certain rare varieties and extraordinary conditions can take their value into the stratosphere. The silver planchet error coins are among the most sought after, and when one appears at auction, it often becomes the highlight of the event. After all the history, design, varieties, and collector appeal, it's time to reveal the staggering number that has shocked even veteran numismatists. One exceptional 1965 Washington quarter, struck in error and preserved in breathtaking condition, once sold for an incredible figure, $88,000. Yes, you heard that right, $88,000 for a single Washington quarter dated 1965. The next time you come across a worn quarter in your pocket change, don't dismiss it. Take a closer look, check its weight, inspect its edge, and you might just discover that you're holding a piece of American coinage history worth far more than 25 cents. Today, we're going to uncover the story behind a coin that millions of people have handled, spent, and overlooked, but for collectors, it carries a story worth telling. I'm talking about the United States of America Washington quarter dollar from the year 1971. Now, at first glance, the 1971 quarter might look just like any other Washington quarter you've seen in your pocket change. But the truth is, every coin tells a story, and this one has a very interesting place in American history. And if you stick with me until the end, you'll learn how some rare examples of this coin have fetched unbelievable sums of money, one even selling for a jaw-dropping figure that will leave you stunned. To really appreciate the 1971 quarter, let's start with a bit of background. The Washington Quarter series began in 1932, during the Great Depression, as a way to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by John Flanagan, the portrait of America's first president has graced the quarter ever since, becoming one of the longest-running and most recognized coin designs in U.S. history. By 1971, the Washington Quarter had already gone through a huge transformation. Just a few years earlier, in 1965, the mint removed silver from circulating quarters. Rising silver prices made it impossible for the mint to keep producing 90% silver quarters without people hoarding them. As a result, starting in 1965, quarters were made from a copper-nickel clad composition, basically a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel. This means the 1971 Washington quarter is a clad coin, not silver, and that change marked a brand new era for everyday coinage. It weighed 5.67 grams, with a reeded edge that still gave it the familiar look and feel of its silver predecessors. On the obverse, or front, of the coin, we find the iconic bust of George Washington, facing left. The word liberty stretches boldly across the top, the national motto "In God We Trust" sits neatly to the left, and the date 1971 anchors the design at the bottom. It's a simple yet powerful design that reflects America's values and its enduring respect for Washington's legacy. The reverse features the proud eagle, wings outstretched, perched on a bundle of arrows, a symbol of strength and readiness to defend the nation. Beneath it rests an olive branch, a symbol of peace. Around the edge, we see United States of America and quarter dollar, while the phrase "e pluribus unum," Latin for "out of many, one," appears just above the eagle. Now here's where things get even more interesting for collectors. In 1971, the U.S. Mint produced Washington quarters at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities. Quarters struck in Philadelphia carried no mint mark, while those minted in Denver bore a small D mint mark on the obverse, just to the right of Washington's hair ribbon. That tiny detail can make a big difference for collectors today, but beyond mint marks, condition plays a critical role in determining a coin's value. Most 1971 quarters circulated heavily, which means the vast majority you'll find today are scratched, worn, or discolored from years of use. However, coins that were carefully saved or struck especially well can be worth far more than face value. Collectors often search for coins graded MS-65 or higher, which show sharp details, strong luster, and no distracting marks. Even more desirable are proof coins struck at the San Francisco Mint. In 1971, San Francisco produced special proof sets for collectors, and these coins can be identified by the small S mint mark. Proof quarters have mirror-like fields and frosted designs, making them stand out in beauty and detail compared to regular circulation strikes. High-grade proof coins with deep cameo contrast are especially valuable. Now let's talk about the fascinating world of varieties and errors. The 1971 Washington quarter is known for some incredible minting errors that drive collectors wild. Examples include double die obverse where the date or lettering looks doubled, off-center strikes that show blank portions of the planchet, and broad strikes where the coin was struck without a collar, causing it to spread out unusually wide. There are also wrong planchet errors. Imagine a quarter struck on a nickel, a dime, or even a foreign coin planchet. These bizarre mistakes are rare, but when they appear, they can fetch thousands of dollars at auction. Collectors love them because they represent little time capsule accidents from the mint, and no two errors are exactly alike. For everyday collectors, the 1971 quarter might seem common, but for specialists, it holds a special place because it bridges a critical time in American numismatic history. It's a coin that represents the fully established clad era, a shift away from silver coinage that defined much of America's earlier coin history. Now, here's the part you've been waiting for, the shocking value reveal. While most 1971 quarters are only worth a small premium over face value in circulated condition, certain rare varieties and pristine examples can command staggering prices. And in one remarkable case, a superb example of the 1971 Washington quarter, preserved in an extraordinary grade and highly sought after by collectors, sold for an eye-popping amount. Are you ready for it? One of these rare 1971 Washington quarters sold for an incredible $67,000. Yes, you heard me correctly, $67,000 for a single Washington quarter that most people would overlook as pocket change. So the next time you see a 1971 Washington quarter, don't just toss it back into circulation. Take a closer look at the date, the mint mark, the details, and the condition. You might just discover that what seems like an ordinary coin is actually a rare and valuable treasure hiding in plain sight. Today, we're taking a closer look at a coin that might still be rattling around in people's pockets, yet for collectors it carries far more intrigue than you'd expect: the United States of America Washington quarter dollar from the year 1979. At first glance, the 1979 quarter seems ordinary. It's the coin that millions of Americans used every single day for gas, groceries, and bus fares. But just because something is common doesn't mean it's without hidden treasures. Within this year of production, there are details, varieties, and rare conditions that transform a 25-cent piece into a small fortune. Let's start with some context. The Washington Quarter series began way back in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The mint originally planned it as a one-year commemorative coin, but the design became so iconic that it stuck around for decades. By 1979, the Washington quarter was nearly half a century old, and while the country had changed, the quarter remained a trusted companion in the American pocket. Now, here's something important. The 1979 quarter is made of copper nickel clad, not silver. That's because silver was removed from U.S. dimes, quarters, and half dollars in 1965. Rising silver prices had caused people to hoard silver coins, and the mint needed a more affordable solution. The result was the copper-nickel sandwich composition that we still see in quarters today, a copper core with outer layers of nickel, giving the coin its silvery look. On the obverse, or front, you'll find the classic portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Washington faces left, his hair tied with a ribbon at the back. The word liberty is inscribed above, "In God We Trust" rests to the left, and the date 1979 is boldly stamped at the bottom. The design is simple yet powerful, reminding us of America's founding values. The reverse features the American eagle with wings spread wide, standing on a bundle of arrows. This symbolizes strength and defense, while the olive branches below represent peace. Surrounding the eagle, you'll find United States of America at the top and quarter dollar at the bottom. The Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one, sits right above the eagle's head. This design, used for decades, is both symbolic and deeply patriotic, but not all 1979 quarters are created equal. The mint struck them in three main locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia quarters carry no mint mark, Denver quarters display a D, and San Francisco coins show an S. Now here's where it gets fun: the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins for collectors. These proof coins have mirror-like backgrounds and frosted designs, making them far more attractive and collectible than regular circulation strikes. Condition plays a huge role in determining a coin's value. Most 1979 quarters you see today are worn down from decades of circulation. They're scratched, dulled, and far from pristine. But when you find one in mint state, meaning uncirculated with its luster still shining, the story changes dramatically. Collectors are always willing to pay premiums for coins that survive in high grades, such as MS65 or higher. Then we have errors and varieties, and this is where things get really exciting. Some 1979 quarters display striking mistakes that occurred during the minting process. These errors are rare, but when they appear, they make the coin far more valuable. Examples include double die obverse, where the date or letters look doubled. There are also off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't centered correctly when struck. Broad strikes, clipped planchets, and even wrong planchet errors, like a quarter struck on a nickel or dime blank, can all exist. Each of these errors transforms a regular coin into a rare and unique collectible, and don't forget varieties. Slight differences in minting, such as changes in the appearance of the mint mark or the sharpness of the strike, can add layers of intrigue for specialists. Collectors love chasing these variations because they tell the story of how coins were produced in that specific year. Now think about this for a second: in 1979, millions upon millions of quarters were minted. Yet only a tiny fraction have survived in exceptional condition. Even fewer carry rare errors or varieties that push them into the spotlight at auctions. That scarcity, combined with strong collector demand, is what fuels astonishing values. So, the next time you're sorting through your change jar or looking at old coins passed down from family, don't overlook the Washington quarter from 1979. That coin you think is ordinary could be hiding extraordinary potential, and here's the part you've been waiting for: the value reveal. While most 1979 Washington quarters are worth just face value or a small premium, rare varieties in top condition have sold for truly staggering amounts. In fact, one superbly preserved example, standing out among millions, reached an unbelievable figure at auction. That single coin sold for an astonishing $57,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $57,000 for a Washington quarter from 1979. It's proof that sometimes the change in your pocket can be worth more than you'd ever imagined. So, before you spend that quarter on a parking meter or soda machine, take a closer look. You just might be holding a small fortune in your hands. Today, we're shining a spotlight on a coin that many of you might have seen or even handled at some point: the United States of America Washington quarter dollar from the year 1977. At first glance, it looks like any other quarter, something you might drop into a vending machine or use for laundry. But as always with coins, the deeper you dig, the more fascinating the story becomes. And yes, this humble 25-cent piece can, under the right conditions, be worth an astonishing amount of money. So, sit tight, because we're going to uncover every detail of this coin's journey: its design, its varieties, its rarity, and its hidden value. Let's begin with a little historical background. The Washington Quarter series has its origins all the way back in 1932, created to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The Mint commissioned sculptor John Flanagan to design the coin, and his portrait of Washington has since become one of the most recognizable images in American numismatics. Fast forward to 1977, America was in a very different time. The country was recovering from the energy crisis and political challenges of the 1970s. Inflation was on the rise, and coins like the quarter were central to daily life. With payphones, arcade games, and meters everywhere, the quarter was the workhorse of American currency. The Washington portrait and the eagle reverse had become symbols of everyday commerce in the United States. Now, let's talk about what the coin looks like. On the obverse, the front of the coin, you'll see Washington's left-facing bust. Above him is the word Liberty, while to the left is the motto "In God We Trust." At the bottom sits the year, 1977. Simple, clean, and classic. On the reverse, you'll find the proud American eagle with its wings spread wide, perched upon a bundle of arrows. This is a symbol of the nation's readiness to defend itself. Beneath the eagle rests two olive branches, signifying peace. The inscriptions United States of America and $quarter surround the eagle, with E pluribus unum, out of many, one, just above the eagle's head. Together, the design reflects America's balance between strength and peace, but not all 1977 quarters are the same. They were struck at multiple mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, with a D, and San Francisco, with an S. San Francisco produced proof coins, special coins made with polished dies and struck multiple times to give them mirror-like finishes. These proof coins were sold to collectors in sets and were never intended for circulation. If you have a 1977 S-proof quarter in pristine condition, it can be worth much more than face value. Condition is everything when it comes to coin values. Most quarters from 1977 that you'll find in circulation today have scratches, worn edges, and faded details. These are considered circulated coins and, unfortunately, usually aren't worth more than their face value. However, when a coin has been preserved in mint state, meaning it has never been used in circulation and still has its original shine and sharp details, the value increases significantly. Coins graded MS-65 or higher are especially prized by collectors. Now, here's where things get really interesting: errors and varieties. Error coins are accidents from the minting process that end up making the coin unique. Collectors absolutely love these because they're like one-of-a-kind works of art. For the 1977 Washington quarter, possible errors include double dies, where the date or lettering looks doubled due to misalignment during the striking process. There are also off-center strikes, where the design is missing a chunk because the blank wasn't properly aligned under the dies. Other errors include clipped planchets, coins missing a piece of metal along the edge, or broad strikes, where the coin expands beyond its intended borders because the collar die wasn't in place, and let's not forget transitional errors, which are some of the rarest types of all. While the standard 1977 quarter was struck on copper-nickel-clad planchets, sometimes blanks of the wrong composition were accidentally used. Imagine finding a 1977 quarter struck on a silver or foreign planchet. That would be an incredible discovery worth a fortune. Collectors also look for varieties. Subtle differences in the size or placement of mint marks, or even slight design modifications, can make certain coins stand out. While many people overlook these tiny details, seasoned collectors know that varieties can mean the difference between a coin worth $1 and a coin worth thousands. Think about this for a moment: millions upon millions of quarters were minted in 1977. They were meant to be spent and forgotten, passed from hand to hand countless times. Yet, within that massive production run, a few coins survived in exceptional condition or emerged with rare minting errors. These are the coins that collectors chase after, and when they appear at auction, the prices can be jaw-dropping. So, here's the big question: how much can a 1977 Washington quarter actually be worth? Well, the answer depends entirely on the condition, the mint mark, and whether the coin carries a rare error or variety. While most 1977 quarters are only worth face value, the rarest and most exceptional examples command incredible sums. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. In one extraordinary case, a 1977 Washington quarter in superb condition, flawless, rare, and highly desirable, fetched an unbelievable price at auction. That single quarter, which most people would mistake for pocket change, sold for an incredible $66,000. Yes, you heard that right, $66,000 for a Washington quarter from 1977. It's a powerful reminder that history, rarity, and condition can transform even the most ordinary-looking coin into a treasure. So before you spend that quarter on a soda or drop it in a parking meter, take a closer look. You just might be holding a fortune in the palm of your hand. Today, we're talking about a coin that millions of Americans once used every single day without giving it a second thought, the Washington quarter dollar from 1980. At first glance, it's just another quarter, the kind you'd toss into an arcade machine, a parking meter, or a vending machine. But as you're about to learn, the story behind this coin is filled with fascinating details, minting quirks, hidden rarities, and a surprising value that could make your jaw drop. Let's start with a bit of context. By the time 1980 rolled around, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for nearly half a century. First introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, the coin was originally intended as a one-year commemorative piece. But the design, created by sculptor John Flanagan, proved so popular that it became a permanent fixture of U.S. coinage. Washington's profile, stoic and strong, became one of the most familiar faces in American currency. Now, let's zoom in on the year 1980. The United States was going through major changes. Inflation was high, gas prices were rising, and the economy faced uncertainty as the country prepared to enter a new decade. Coins like the quarter were essential for everyday life. In 1980, a quarter could buy you a phone call at a payphone, a handful of gumballs, or a quick game at an arcade. This made the Washington quarter one of the most heavily circulated coins of the time, meaning most of them suffered from scratches, dents, and heavy wear. On the obverse side of the 1980 quarter, you'll find Washington's left-facing bust with the inscriptions "Liberty" above and "In God We Trust" to the left, along with the date 1980 at the bottom. On the reverse, you'll see the familiar heraldic eagle, wings spread wide, clutching a bundle of arrows, with olive branches beneath. The eagle represents strength and protection, while the olive branches symbolize peace. The inscriptions "United States of America" and quarter dollar wrap around the design, with the motto "E pluribus unum," meaning, out of many, one, placed above the eagle's head. But here's where it gets interesting. In 1980, quarters were struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, marked with a D; and San Francisco, marked with an S. San Francisco produced proof coins for collectors, which were never meant to circulate. These proof quarters have a mirror-like finish and are among the most beautiful examples of the 1980 Washington quarter. Collectors today value them highly, especially when preserved in their original, pristine condition. Condition, in fact, is everything when it comes to value. A circulated 1980 quarter is worth only face value, but an uncirculated example with no scratches or blemishes can be worth much more. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect, flawless coin. If you find a 1980 quarter graded MS-65 or higher, you're holding something far rarer than the millions of worn-out examples still floating around. Now, let's dive into the world of errors and varieties, the features that really make certain 1980 quarters incredibly valuable. Minting errors happen when something goes wrong during the striking process. For the 1980 Washington quarter, some of the most desirable errors include double dies, where letters or numbers appear doubled because of a misalignment during striking. There are also off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the blank planchet wasn't properly aligned in the press. Clipped planchets are another fascinating error. These coins are missing a piece along the edge, almost as if someone took a bite out of the coin. And then there are transitional or wrong planchet errors. Imagine a 1980 quarter struck on a planchet meant for another denomination or even a foreign coin. These extremely rare mistakes slip through the mint's quality control and end up as treasures for collectors. If you ever come across a 1980 quarter that feels lighter, heavier, or looks slightly different in color, it could be one of these special error coins. Collectors also pay close attention to the details of the mint mark. Over the years, the size, placement, and shape of mint marks have sometimes varied. While these differences might seem minor, they create varieties that collectors love to hunt down. For example, a 1980 quarter with a repunched mint mark, where the mint mark was stamped more than once, is a variety that could carry a premium. Think about how many quarters were minted in 1980. We're talking about hundreds of millions of coins entering circulation. Most people used them, spent them, and never gave them a second thought. But within that massive sea of coins are rare gems, coins struck with unusual errors, coins preserved in pristine condition, coins that stand out from the rest. These are the ones that collectors go crazy for, and these are the ones that can fetch mind-blowing prices at auction. Now, let's get to the part you've all been waiting for, the value reveal. While the majority of 1980 Washington quarters are worth just 25 cents, some rare examples with the right combination of rarity, condition, and error can sell for life-changing amounts. And in one remarkable case, a flawless 1980 Washington quarter with extraordinary features shocked collectors and bidders alike when it sold for an unbelievable $56,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $56,000 for a single quarter minted in 1980. So, the next time you're sifting through change, don't ignore the quarters. Look carefully at the date, the mint mark, the condition, and any unusual features. That ordinary-looking coin in your pocket could be hiding a story, a treasure, and maybe even a small fortune. Thank you for joining me today on this deep dive into the 1980 Washington quarter dollar. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more exciting coin stories, and click the notification bell so you never miss a discovery. Share this video with your friends and family, too. You never know who might have a hidden gem in their coin jar. Until next time, keep hunting, keep collecting, and keep believing in the incredible power of coins.